in the general chat.
All right. Well, we're live now. Sorry, I just kind of
Sorry about that.
no problem. All right. So there we go with that. Oh wait, actually, hold on a sec. Let me just.
Yeah, I'm gonna share this with them.
All right. Forgot to check that mic, make sure that it was working. So, all right, Rick. Well, how's your day going?
Pretty good, pretty good. Where is
Probably
Apex?
give it a few minutes, give people a chance to show up. Let's see.
I sent him the link last week. Oh, there he is.
Huh. All right. So, anyways. So as I clear one out, another one pops up. uh,
No, I think
what was that?
I'll give him the wrong link.
So, hmm.
There we go. Now he's got the right link.
All right. So, well, we'll see if he joins us in the studio here. See who. I already Shadowhawk already mentioned to me that he and Rex were gonna probably end up running late tonight because I guess
They
they
got
had,
started.
huh?
They got started a bit late.
Well, it wasn't just that. It was that they were expecting some special guests on tonight. So,
Yeah, I saw them with their special guests. I was actually got them open in another tab.
hmm. Yeah. So, anyway,
How has your weekend been?
all right. Same old, same old. Yesterday, pretty much was just trying to relax a bit. Trying to get stuff set like get this week's stream set up, get my viewing schedule for my own little Toonami and Adult Swim blocks, as it were,
Yeah.
going. So, was looking ahead too, because like one of the anime I'm watching right now as part of my Toonami block is One Piece, and once once I get through I'm up to like episode 575, so I'm over halfway through the series now. But
For
once I get
that's not
through,
One Piece, right?
yeah, once I get through One Piece, I'm going to do a total reboot of my watch schedule. Going to expand the Adult Swim block to 6 hours with with more or less just all anime, and then going to still have a 2 hour block of, well, 3 hour block of anime as opposed to two 6 shows basically. With and then the afternoon block is going to be like purely cartoons. I was just just thinking, that's what I've basically been doing.
Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah. So, and we sit here and we just wait around, see who, wait around, see if people show up at all. Hopefully they will soon. Um, Aside from, of course, talking about Friday night, I do have something. I do have at least one thing we can talk about. Probably two or three from Bounty in the Comics that caught my
Cool.
attention this last week. So, um, yeah. So let's see who. RJ was on earlier. Yes, some.
So I'm down to 5 pages that I need to remaster for Canadian Shield 1.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not including doing lettering, of course,
Mm.
but all the remastering the art and coloring it, which coloring is the hardest part because I've done a lot of the remastering of the artwork, just tweaking it more than anything.
Mm. Yeah, I'm gonna go off camera here for a quick moment.
Okay.
And do something. So if you want to like introduce yourself, share your link, whatever, go for it. Even though I know it's just you.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing tonight? Hope you're doing good. Um, so I am, of course, Rick Piper of Cross Comics. But I think most people here know that. But that's all right. I, of course, am a comic creator. I do Christian comics, and not sure what else to say. Yeah, I do other stuff too. Um, Christian, so do things from a Christian perspective myself. And look, is Mike frozen?
No, I'm not. I shouldn't be frozen.
It looks like Mike's camera might be frozen. I'm not sure whether he's frozen on YouTube or not. Oh, there he's back.
Yeah, I shouldn't be frozen. I would just check my YouTube. I wasn't frozen there either.
It must have been just a my end then.
Hmm. And then there's the link to your Truth Social.
Yeah. Trying to build that up right now. Seeing as how I've only got 3 people on that. You,
Well,
Marsupial, and one person that I don't know.
I've only got one follower thus far on there. Well,
That
actually, yeah, one person following me. That's you, and then I'm following a bunch of people. So
yeah.
yeah. So, anyways, as we're just waiting around for people, looks like we do at least have in the StreamYard. It says 3 people now are watching. So let's see. So that's good. All right. So with that, let's see. Just trying to see what shall we start with your impressions of Friday, or should we start going into some? I'd rather wait to see if we can get some more people in here, but
Yeah. I'm about to turn my fan on. Let me know if it makes too much noise.
all right.
Can you hear it at all?
No,
Okay. That's good. Just because I'm starting to swelter.
were you
I'd have
active
it off
today?
if I
Were you
needed to.
active today or something like that?
No, it's just hot here.
Hot,
It's warm. Maybe not hot, but warm.
like
I don't
what,
know what the.
mid-70s or something?
Yeah, something like that. Here, let's see. What is the weather here in Hamilton? That's. Let's see. It says 21 Celsius.
21
Uh,
Celsius.
can I?
So let's see. 21, 37.8 plus 32.
69 Fahrenheit.
69, 70 degrees Fahrenheit. 69.8 technically.
Yeah,
So 70.
and I'm not uh, sure whether the it says feels like 70 with humidity.
Huh. Well, that's not too bad though. That's not too hot. Then again, I'm in California, so
Yeah. Well, tomorrow apparently with being mostly cloudy, it's going to be a high of 81.
no problem, Rick. Oh, Woody's here. Hey guys. Hey Woody. All right. Well,
Hey,
at least you
Woody.
got. All right. So okay. So if you guys were here Friday, we went over some stories from quality. We went we went over a couple stories from Smash Comics Volume 1, Number 5, and Feature Comics Volume 1, Number 27. I introduced you guys to Dollman, as well as we read through him, as well as Espionage with Black Ace,
I
Invisible
guess the no
Hood,
problem is about
and
he can't
what?
hear my fan either.
Huh?
I'm just saying, probably Woody's saying the no problem is about he can't hear my fan either.
Okay. Yeah. So, Rick, would you like to give your impressions from what we read on Friday for Woody?
Impressions of the stories. Okay, so what's the first one again?
Well, Espionage Black Ace.
Espionage.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
that's the
was
first one.
pretty good, of course. Um, that was like a 10 pager, I think you said, or 12,
9.
9, 9.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, it was.
no, it
Well,
wasn't 10. It was 9.
yeah. Well, in total, it was supposed to be 23 pages, but it only was 22 because the clock story. I guess they left out that last
Yeah,
page. But
I was just joking because 9, ger- say 9 in
oh,
German is no.
9 in German's no. Yeah. Okay, I get what you're saying.
Uh, but okay, so yeah, that was about him tracking down somebody, obviously. Um, uh, that was a recurring villain for him, right?
Yeah, it's
With
second time. Even though they gave him a different name, Baron Basil to Neho. That's what I explained to you.
yeah,
Basically, in that one, they were like on the cut. It was attempted sabotage. He was trying to thwart some of the sabotage. You know, um,
yeah,
America was going to get into the war at that point, and there was armaments. And one of the other points I was pointing out to
yeah,
you is that how they had made up a whole bunch of new countries.
yeah. But we found out those were all real countries that they listed at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that story. It started out sounding like it could almost been, a few months later or a couple months later be a newspaper headline. Maybe the countries would have been different, but about the whole thing of the war in Europe and all that, it seemed like it could almost be reality when you stop and think of it. Because there are spies and all that in real life, and they probably do similar things to Black Ace. So
Mhm.
that was interesting in that it had so much, and it probably didn't mean to, of course, but had so much realism in it
Mhm.
for the time. Like, as we know, that was done in October. I'm not sure which week in October, and a month later, and again, I'm not sure what date in November. World War II was on. Now, of course, it wasn't called World War II yet, but Europe, England, and all that were at war. Different parts of Europe were at war with each other. You know, and of course, that story would have been written a few months before, I would presume. So, you
Mhm.
know, it's just interesting. What it's. I wonder whether the writer of it had some idea of what was going on in Europe and decided to incorporate it in his story to add that bit of realism.
Yeah. Now you had to correct me that they were saying Black Ace, but the reason that happened was because originally the character was known as Black X, and for a while there, and I think this was the last issue that he went by the Black Ace code name. I think in Smash Volume 1, number 6, he goes back to being Black X. So
It's hard to tell which one would be better as a code name, Black X or Black Ace.
Hmm.
You know, X usually stands for 10, Roman numerals, of course, and then Ace, usually they think you're, the best of the best with Ace. So I think that, yeah, and of course, I found my usual plot holes, which, like I said, although I find these, I do find most of the stories, if not all, entertaining. They're good, and yeah, they are what they are for the time.
Yeah, and again, as I pointed out on several occasions, this is still a relatively new media going on, and I think, and since they were writing anthologies, writers were only given a certain page count.
Yeah.
To basically.
Well, I can excuse that to a degree, because a good writer, and there's a key term, good writer, could be able to work within that time frame and think of all these, plot holes. Or
Yeah,
you would
but
hope, anyways.
that said, it's still a fairly new medium, so
Yeah.
it was probably a feeling out process. They had to figure all that stuff out too.
Yeah.
So, and then of course the next feature we read was Invisible Hood.
Yeah. Invisible Hood. Again, he was going after a gangster of sorts, if I remember correctly.
Who kidnapped a broadcast or a prosecutor named Tom Bradley.
Again, it was a good story. Going after. Yeah, in some ways I can, almost see it's something like a Batman's. Well, maybe not like, but what would become like a Batman story later on. Batman would deal with stuff like this later on. He might have even dealt with it already.
Well, yeah, earlier from his inception, Batman was dealing with organized crime quite a bit. So.
But even, like district attorney type character gets captured, that reminds me of Harvey Dent, somebody like Harvey Dent getting captured. I know he didn't come along for quite some time in DC Comics, but, I'm sure something like that's happened in Batman before he was invented, Harvey Dent, that is. But, so it was, I'll say, somewhat of a typical story of the time, but overall it was fairly good. There was, and I know maybe I shouldn't mention it, but the obvious plot holes, which somehow I find without even trying.
Yeah. Well, like how he knew the plane was in the back, for example, right?
Yeah. And then, of course, we did have I think the one spot where the artwork got messed up a little bit.
Yeah, where the suit didn't seem to match the character for that.
Either they drew the wrong color or they colored the character wrong.
Yeah.
It's hard to say which one it was, especially not being able to talk with the artist, whoever did that.
Oh yeah.
But it's somewhat. Well, was it that dark? I'm not sure how dark it was, but the Invisible Hood. It's the Invisible.
Okay, I think I don't know if it was that one or another one of the stories that we talked about. We were talking about the shading issue in one of those stories, because I thought the bad guy for a moment there looked kind of Cro-Magnon, if you
Yeah, I
remember.
think that was one of the two next stories because that was the guy with the I think he was supposed to be German military or something like that. Not quite, but close.
Well, that would have been espionage then.
Espionage. Oh. I was thinking it was one of the next two.
Yeah.
Uh, well, of course, we weren't able to finish the last one, the clock, and the clock was not too bad. Those short stories that was supposed to be 5 pages. We had four, so we weren't able to finish that one, unfortunately. Um, I think I probably could have. We could have figured out the basic ending. I forget the full story at the
And
moment.
we have 4 people in here now, so let me just remind everybody, if you can help out by liking and sharing the stream, then we get some more friendly people in here. That'd be appreciated. Also, anything we talk about here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and we will try to answer the question to the best of our ability. So there we go with that. The clock.
Actually, I think these two smaller. I'm not sure whether I did find anything or, um, but these two smaller stories, I can't remember if I found any plot holes or they weren't didn't seem to be as big, anyways. If I
Well,
did,
Dollman, the big thing I think we obviously talked about was the idea of him using himself as a guinea pig for that
yeah,
show.
and unfortunately, in a lot of these cartoon comic books, it is a trope that the scientist uses themselves as a guinea pig, where probably no real scientist would do that unless they're extremely desperate. And Dollman, I don't think or whatever his secret identity is supposed to be. Not that he'd ever really have a secret identity if he's constantly that size. Um, you know, wasn't all that desperate. It's not like he's got some military breathing down his back for this formula, and they cancel his thing if he doesn't come up with it. His contract.
Yeah. Well, the doll man, the villain, it was more of an extortion scheme.
Yeah, with his wife.
Well, at the time, it would have been his girlfriend.
Okay, girlfriend.
Martha would become his wife later in the series.
Yeah, and the guy was just his professor, not her father as well, right?
Okay, yeah. So Daryl Dane, who's the protagonist of the story, Martha Roberts, who's at the time his girlfriend / wife, and then Professor Roberts is her father and Daryl Dane's boss, basically.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, some quaint stories there, and interesting to see how they kind of developed over time, how they develop over time and stuff like that.
And it's amazing that some of these characters, Dollman's, although he doesn't have a lot happening today, he's still around a little bit. Every now and again, you see him.
Well, Dollman, along with Invisible Hood, were both picked up by DC and they were both kind of part of the Freedom Fighters in the early.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the Invisible Hood was so much, or if he was, it was early on, but he was dropped. I've got a couple Freedom Fighter books. I don't see him in it.
Yeah. Well, he still, I think, was one of the characters DC did buy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure DC.
They got Black Hawk, they got Plastic Man, and of course they made Plastic Man part of the Freedom Fighters. I do remember that. Uncle Sam, Dollman, Black Condor, Phantom Lady.
Yeah, all those characters I've actually heard of. I had never heard of the Invisible Hood before. You started reading about him and all that.
Well, he was a part of the. He was. I don't know if he was part. He may not have. I thought he was part of it, but he was killed early on. That's probably why you didn't necessarily see him.
Yeah, that could be
because there. I know there was one story, right? There was a particular story arc I haven't read the story in full. I've just read the synopsis over it over the years.
Yeah.
But there was a story arc that a smaller group of the freedom fighters, led by Our Man, who of course was a DC original character, went over to Earth X and was killed during that world bombing of Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. You know what? Well, I can't, like I said, I can't really remember him in DC, but when they did an animated series or an animated movie recently with Earth X, or was it on Arrow Flash that they went to Earth X? He might have been in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was in that world that they made Captain Cold gay, which was pathetic.
Yeah, the whole idea. Well, we gotta have diversity and all that, right?
Yeah, and then they put him on. I think did they put him on Legends of Tomorrow? I did, I liked Legends, but it didn't. They weren't in their costumes enough. They weren't actually doing anything much, in my opinion. But that's something for a different time.
Yeah, I'm looking something up real quick here.
Stuff about the Invisible Hood.
Yeah.
Heck, Black Condor, I think, even made it onto the Justice League at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Okay. Well,
was it? Go ahead.
oh wait. Let me just see something here. All right. So I'm going to share something here with you, and then I'll probably read this off here because actually they do make reference to Kent Thurston being in
Survived until 1974
hmm,
when he was apparently murdered by Icicle and Mist. Starman Volume 2,
yeah.
Number 2.
Little is known about Kent Thurston's origins or the origins of the cloak and the chemical he used. What is known that he began fighting crime in Smash Comics #1 as he was. Well, that's not completely true because at least they in his first appearance there in Smash Comics #1, they did go over his they did actually go over his origin, and at least in there, his origin was that he had saved the life of a professor who was working on a formula and a cloak, invisible
Yeah,
cloak.
and
And
he gave the cloak to the guy that saved his life.
yeah, Ken Thurston. So as the Invisible Hood, he later changed his name to Invisible Justice, which is the name of the feature in Quality Comics. He was featured in Smash Comics, Smash Comics #1 through 32, often sharing the book with other characters such as Archie O'Toole and Winged Wendell. Hours before the attack on Pearl Harbor, Thurston was recruited by Uncle Sam to join the freedom fighters in defending the base. The entire team, except for Sam, seemed to get killed. It was later revealed that all of the team, except for Magno, had lived in Secret Origins number 26. The
Of
Invisible
course,
Hood. Oh,
and of course, by that time, that means they're with DC with Secret Origins.
The Invisible Hood survived until 1974 when he was apparently murdered by Icicle and the Mist. Icicle was one of Alan Scott Green Lantern's arch enemies, and Mist was one of Starman. Starman Volume 2, Number 2. Tyson Guilford, Blindside, from the superhero team Relative Heroes, believes that Kent Thurston is his grandfather. And then there's another thing here, but this isn't as per. So yes, he was one of the characters that was part of the Freedom Fighters, but the issues you have may have been later in the series because I think that Pearl Harbor situation was
Yeah.
earlier on in the story arc.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I guess. Well, like I said, I've heard of the freedom fighters in different things. Obviously, I didn't know that the Invisible Hood was part of them. So I don't think he really made his mark, or maybe made his mark for
oh yeah,
anybody
some
to
of those
include.
other lesser known characters include like Magno, as they mentioned there. Let's see, Neon the Unknown, Red
Yeah.
Bee, Human
Again, a
on the
couple
Ray.
others I haven't heard of.
Yeah, so anyway, so yeah, so that's pretty much what was going on with what we're reading from
Friday.
Quality Comics. So, and you'll be back with me this Friday as well as we go over standard. Well, we go over Best Comics #2 from Standard Comics. That one's more of an humor anthology. It's got more of the reprints
Yeah.
newspapers. So I'll still, if you want, I can still send you the reading material. That one we're gonna probably be reading a little bit more randomly. I won't have any specific features picked out. We'll just kind of go through the book and read it because that's more reprints from newspapers. It's more slice of life stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. So anyway, so with that, let's see now. We still have 4 people watching. Yay, 4 people. And we do appreciate you guys, as always, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. And also, seeing if we can get some more friendly people in here to partake. And as I said, if anything we talk about, grabs your attention, feel free to comment on or ask questions. And we'll try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. We're already half hour into this, so let's start to move on here a little bit. I was obviously hoping that more people would have joined us by now, but I guess it must be a busy time of year for some people.
Yeah. Well, I think Rex's stream is still going on.
Yeah, I knew that much.
So maybe he's just showing himself at the moment, but maybe once he ends, depending on when he ends.
Yeah. They'll probably pop in to say hi in the chat, but they won't. But I'm hoping they'd come into the studio so we have more people to, obviously, bounce stuff off of. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and move on to some of the stories of this past week that kind of caught my interest. I thought would be good, group discussion stories. So the one, I think I even told you a little bit about this one during the week here. So this is the one that caught my attention on Monday, and I thought, now supposedly this is just really more of a rumor, and than anybody actually confirmed this happening. But if it is if this is true, if Disney's doing this, it's kind of a mess. It's kind of a messed up thing to do. So I'll read the headline here. Yeah, I know you're asking me what are you talking about, Mike? Well, I'm about to tell you.
I know. I was about to read that. I was sort of reading the headline myself.
The Walt Disney Company reportedly silencing Disney legends by duping them with the promise of work on new projects. Now, this I don't know if this has actually been outright confirmed. It's kind of hard to get it confirmed because obviously, the general idea here is what I guess they're doing is that they're getting them under contract. Now, the Disney legends are the people who were put into the Disney Hall of Fame, and they're putting them under new contracts so they can get them to sign NDAs so they can't be critical of some of the newer projects coming out. So, article
Hey,
by
as long as they're not working on the project, they should be able to criticize it.
yeah, but the thing is that they're being led to believe that they were being led to believe that they would be working on the
Some of these projects.
and apparently they do get credited in these projects, even if it's like
Yeah, the question is, do they get paid?
yeah. So okay, so article by John F. Trent, published May 27th. So here we go. A new rumor claims that the Walt Disney Company silencing a number of their Disney legends by pretending to offer them opportunities to work on new projects, but in reality sidelining them and using a new contract to keep them from criticizing the company. So they probably are paying them. They're basically paying them to stay silent.
Yeah, without
um,
them knowing.
yeah. For those unfamiliar with the term Disney Legends, it's a Hall of Fame program created by the Walt Disney Company in 1987 and inducts new members annually. Some well known members of Disney Legends include Dick Van Dyke, Tim Allen, Kurt Russell, Julie Andrews, Roy Williams, Bill Walsh, Carl Banks, Ollie Johnston Jr., Frank Thomas, Frank Churchill, Phil Collins, Jim Henson, Jody Benson. Now, Jody Benson, key name there because if you remember, Rick, I might have mentioned this to you. We might have talked a little bit about this too. Jody Benson actually came out in support of what they did with the Little
Little
Mermaid
Mermaid.
movie. Yeah. Johnny Depp, Mark Hamill, Stan Lee, John Favreau,
um,
James Earl
although I
Jones.
love them, I don't think that one name matters
Which
in this
one?
list. Stan Lee. It's not like he can come out and criticize.
I think this is just an example of it. Yeah,
Yeah,
because he passed away 5 years ago. I get that, and
yeah. Well, I just say that, and I could be wrong. I don't think anybody else on this list is actually dead. Maybe Dick Van Dyke.
no, I think he's still alive.
Well, Jim Henson's dead too, so.
Yeah, Jim Henson, Robert Downey Jr., Hans Zimmer, Idina Menzel. All right, so according to Scooper WD Pro, not to be confused with WCW Pro, um, many of the Disney legends who might otherwise have been critical of the company are being silenced. He explains, quote, Disney, we are told, has been going to Disney Legends, people who worked with the company for a very long time, have extremely storied careers, names that you would know, and Disney is hiring these individuals or has been hiring these individuals over the last number of years, hiring them for one purpose.
Yeah,
Unquote.
and actually, I'm gonna just say something. Stan Lee shouldn't even be. No offense to Stan, but he shouldn't even be on a Disney Legends thing because yeah, they owe Marvel for making movies and stuff like that. But Stan's fame has nothing to do with Disney. It has to do with Marvel Comics itself.
Oh yeah,
Before
I
Disney
know.
even
Yeah, I
acquired.
think I understand. They probably still put him in the Hall of Fame as more of an honorary thing, you know,
Yeah,
as maybe as a form of gratitude for allowing them to use his creative properties, his
yeah, but
intellectual.
unfortunately, he didn't have any say over that. They bought Marvel, and that's all it comes down to. They bought Marvel, and now they can use them, or they bought Marvel Studios, however you want to put it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether they bought the Marvel Company comics part when they bought, the studio or not. I don't know how that deal completely worked at all, but it's just to me. I loved Disney back in the '80s and maybe early '90s, but you know, So,
Yeah,
half
and
seems a
a lot
disgrace
of
to
their
put him on
classic,
that
a lot of
list.
those classic cartoons, a lot of those old like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck cartoons are cool too.
Yeah, The Wonderful World of Disney.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know, just for them to put him on their legends list, he had nothing to do with their shows. He's all about
Well,
and then
that might not be well. Well, okay. I guess I do know, but as I recall now, it wasn't actually Marvel that did it, unless they did some of the more recent comic versions of Disney characters. That could have been it too. But I do know that Disney did have some comic adaptations that were done by Dell and later Gold Key
yeah,
comics.
well,
You know,
yeah, but even that wouldn't be the same thing if Marvel Comics picked up a contract to do some Disney characters in comic books.
mhm.
It wouldn't be the to me. It's not the same.
Disney even at one point had the right to do comic books based on the '80s Transformers and GI Joe cartoons too.
Yeah.
So, um, well, what are you saying here? I'm so old. I remember what it was called. What it was called of the Wonderful World of Color. Before that, when color TVs were still a new thing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, originally the Wonderful World of Woody's right there. I remember reading a little bit about that. The Wonderful World of Disney did start out originally as the Wonderful World of Color. So,
That's cool. I liked Disney back then. Even up into the '90s, maybe the early thousands.
well,
But
because even though people have made the argument that Walt Disney, for his era, was probably considered kind of left leaning.
progressive or
Yeah,
liberal.
progressive, left leaning, liberal, whatever you want to call it. He would probably not be. He's probably more of a classic liberal. He probably would not be.
He'd be rolling in his grave right now.
Yeah, with some of the stuff they're pulling here. Um, okay, so continuing on with the article here, quote. So let's say that it's a project that they have brought them on, and those legends believe they're going to be part of doing something big, something tremendous. And then the company, we are told, has been sidelining those legends that they don't actually end up working on the project at all, even if they are credited, unquote. WDW Pro allowed. So what they're basically saying is that they're bringing them in with the promise of getting the work. They're probably still paying them, but they're paying them to basically keep them from they're getting them to sign new contracts with NDAs in them to where they can't come out and criticize the production. And then so they probably are paying them because I would imagine that if they credit them, they have to pay them. If they
It's
are
hard to
getting
say whether they would have to, because technically they haven't done any work. So if they haven't done any work, they might not. But some contracts you do get paid without, no matter whether you work or not, too. So it's hard to say.
yeah. I'm sure if James was here, he could probably clear that part up. I think he would know about that kind of thing than I would.
Yeah.
But anyways, quote, and that those Disney legends then are simply signed to the contract to control their speech because the contract forbids them from speaking negatively about the company, and thereby these legends have been brought into the fold to work on things believing that they are back. They're back in the game, and the truth is they're well, I think that's supposed to say farther, but they forgot the R there. Removed from the game than ever before, unquote, he continued. It's one of those things where by getting them to sign new contracts with NDAs in them, they can't really be critical of
Yeah,
the project.
depending if the contract says that, which is I'd never sign a contract like that myself.
Hmm. Yeah, but what they're talking about, a lot of these legends, and what they alluded to later in the article here is a lot of these legends are like Dick Van Dyke. He may not
Yeah,
be active anymore, but I think he's in his 90s, I believe.
yeah, if he's still alive. But the thing is, he doesn't really need the work. He's 90 plus years old, most likely. He can sit back and relax. You know, I don't think he has a shitload of money coming in, but he can sit back and who cares whether he's getting
Yeah,
most likely.
he apparently still is alive. He was born December 13th, 1925, which would actually make him
Almost 100 years old,
97 years old. He'll be 98. Like,
unless he's already turned this year. He could be 98 already.
no,
No,
his birthday's December 13th. We're in
so he'll be
2022.
98 in December.
Yeah, he'll be 98 in December. Yeah, so,
But
yeah.
like I doubt they're going to him to do that because
Well, and again, to kind of understand the point too, I think it may not necessarily be, not every one of those may be the ones that are actually under these
yeah,
new
yeah, I know
contracts.
those.
They're
Obviously,
they're
not
just
every one
they're
of
just
those can.
putting names out, like Tim. I doubt very seriously Tim Allen signed something like, or fell for the trick, because I know Tim Allen is actually a pretty, he's one of the few Hollywood actors who's actually a pretty well-known conservative. He's been on Fox News a few times, and Newsmax, so
Yeah,
he's a fairly well-known conservative. You know, so of
yeah,
course for Disney he voiced Buzz Lightyear. Uh, Dick Van Dyke, I think the project he's most well known for at Disney is Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
yeah. Or I was thinking Mary Poppins too.
Hmm.
I think he was a chimney sweep in Mary Poppins.
Oh, that might have been. So
Well, and of course those are a lot. Those flicks are like 50 years old, 60 or 70 years old.
yeah.
So, but he's done other stuff. I'm not sure who. But again, being 98, I doubt he's on their list. He doesn't seem to be speaking up much. I would probably be people that actually say something that they're trying to get
Well,
on this.
they're probably, like, the way at least the article made it sound here. Sound like they are going after, maybe Dick Van Dyke isn't per se one of the ones that they're going after, but they're going after some of the older ones who may not have been as active in recent, like those who might be in their 60s and 70s, who still
Yeah,
feel they can go, but just haven't gotten as much work lately,
yeah,
because they're getting older.
or
So
want the work.
yeah, and want to work. Yeah,
What he says, Dick Van Dyke daytime show. Yeah, he had his own show
yeah,
too,
a comedy. Yeah, and
the
that
Dick
was the
Van
one
Dyke
where
show.
that was the one where he that's actually the one where Mary Tyler Moore was also a co-host, or actually a co-star on that show. And they were playing the Petries. Mary Tyler Moore played his wife on there, with Maury Amsterdam on Buddy and Sally and Mel and Mary Tyler Moore. So
Yeah,
anyways, getting back to the article here. Quote, Disney using these contracts simply as a way to silence those who made the company what it is. Unquote. WDW Pro Rig. Yeah, basically, and there's a picture here, I guess from left to right here. You got Kevin Feige, Alan Bergman, and Bob Iger attend the Ant-Man and the Wasp. Later in the video, who would detail? Okay, I think he meant to say he would detail what his sources have informed him again. Quote, the way this is working for these individuals, we are told, the way this is working for individuals of an older age, I pointed out, who are being brought back under contract to work on these things, is that they don't work on them then. Quote, they're shelved immediately, and then they understand that they are retired, let's say, unquote. WDW Pro relays, quote, and given they are on a degree of wealth which cannot easily be expanded because once you reach a certain age, you're living off of that which you have required. These individuals are hesitant to break their contract, to break their NDA, to do anything that would make Disney less Disney, go after these Disney Legends retirements. So basically, they're making it so they're bringing some of these older legends back and kind of trapping them, in this situation because that contract. So you actually then by that, Rick, by that maybe they are being paid.
Yeah, they
Maybe they
could
are
be.
being
Yeah, it's hard to say if they're just talking about their well, usually as actors you don't get a retirement paycheck, but the royalties or whatever from projects that they've worked on in the past, depending what their contracts were in the past, of course. Like I don't think Disney did the Dick Van Dyke Show, but say he's Dick
they
Van Dyke
didn't.
is receiving
That
royalties
was
for.
that was a completely different company.
Yeah, yeah, I know, but I'm just using it as an example. You know that he's receiving royalties from Disney for whatever you know shows that he might have done with them.
All right.
You know,
Uh,
I'm not sure they're talking about that or this new stuff.
okay.
Maybe
So
they need supplement to their income because the royalties aren't paying the bills.
that's possible. And what did Woody just say here? Um, it was one of the funniest TV shows ever. Yeah, I mean you can still watch it on some of the classic TV channels,
Yeah,
and I'm sure that somewhere on Amazon or one of the other streaming services they might have it as well. Um, so this isn't the first time Disney has been accused of doing such a thing. Back in 2017, longtime Kermit the Frog puppeteer Steve Whitmire, who played the character since 1990 after Jim Henson's death, appeared on Today where he addressed his firing from the role and noted that Disney attempted to get him to sign NDA.
what he just said something about Jim Henson there.
Hmm. Well, let's take a look. It was so sad when Jim Henson died. He had just done, or was still doing, a show in Raleigh, and I was living there at the time, and he just got sick from a flu or something and croaked.
I think he said croaked on purpose. He
Yeah,
was
that might have been a
funny
bit of a pun there.
with Kermit the Frog of Sesame Street News.
Yeah,
I am Kermit the Frog of Sesame Street News.
yeah. I'm just checking something here.
So, what more detail?
Yeah, so. Anyways.
Whitmere.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Getting back to the article then, as soon as I can, of course, find the cursor. All right, so Whitmire detailed at one point that the Walt Disney Company offered him what he described as quote unquote consolation prizes. He explained, quote, they were also offering me things that I sort of called consolation prizes. They were going to honor me, give me Disney Legends awards, things like that, but that required signing NDA. And for
Yeah,
those of you who don't know what NDA stands for, it's non-disclosure agreement.
yeah. We're gonna give you an award if you sign a non-disclosure agreement. Screw you! I should be able to get that award without signing that.
Yeah,
And yeah, well,
kind of make. Well, if I got to sign an, if I got to sign an NDA just to get an award from you, then you don't. Maybe you're not the company I thought you were.
yeah. Maybe I don't want your award.
Yeah, or
um,
maybe you can stick that award up where the sun don't shine,
um,
right?
yeah. I was gonna say, and like, oh, they're offering him something else. You fired him off of being Kermit the Frog. What else could you give him that would be better than doing Kermit the Frog?
That's not too bad, Rick. Huh. Quote, and what they really wanted was for me to frame this as I moved on and that I had retired, and it was just disingenuous. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Unquote.
Good for you.
What do you make of this rumor that Disney is silencing its Disneyland? Yeah, I think that if it is
They've got to
actually
silence
true,
Disney.
yeah, I think that if it is actually true, then it's actually pretty messed up.
Yeah,
Because I know there are people who would probably use other words, like particularly one that rhymes with itty, right, Rick?
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if that is in fact true, that's what they're doing. That's a kind of a messed up thing to be doing. So
I would
that's my take.
wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. So and another example of finding out just how itty bitty and little Dee Dookie, Disney can be.
Yeah, they can't take a bit of criticism.
Yeah. Good. And as I
You don't
said,
get better if
I
you
think
can't
the
take
names they
criticism.
listed, not all of them probably did actually. I think those are just examples given.
Yeah, yeah,
Obviously, as you mentioned, Jim Henson and Stan Lee are already passed on, so wouldn't affect them at this point.
yeah. Heck, in some ways, I don't even think Jim Henson should have like a. I don't know what Disney had to do with the Muppets. They may have done a few movies. They said that guy said they bought them and like I'm not sure when they said they bought them, but he was doing Kermit the Frog since 1990. So
Hmm.
when did they buy the Muppets? It's like he's not a Disney legend. He's a Muppet legend, which has
Yeah.
nothing to do with Disney. Yeah, you bought the Muppets, but the Muppets had their fame way before you ever bought them, Disney.
Hmm. Oh yeah, let me check over here.
Same with, like the Marvel studios and movies, comics. They had their fame. Stanley had his fame way before you ever even thought of buying. You know, they used Jim Henson stuff on Sesame Street. There's
Yep.
lots of things Jim Henson did.
Well, actually, according to this, in fact, he actually
I think he helped with Star Wars too.
he started with he helped to start Sesame Street because I'm right now. Let me just clear this out for a moment here. I just pulled this up. I was just looking a little bit at this for a moment.
Yeah, I can see him starting Sesame Street because he had the main, well, Muppets, puppets, however you want to say it.
But yeah, so here and newly formed Muppets Inc. resided for some time. Yeah, so let's see. And in 69, let's see. In 1969, television producer Joan Gance Cooney and her staff at the Children's Television Workshop were impressed by the quality and creativity of the Henson-led team, so they asked Henson to staff to work full time on Sesame Street. So yeah, so they pretty much
Were they doing the Muppets before this,
yeah,
or
Muppets came apparently in this previous section here. It says television and Muppets 1961 to 1969. Henson spent much of the next 2 decades working in commercial talk shows projects
Sam and
before
Friends?
realizing the popularity of the work. Sam and Friends. Um, yeah, I was just putting this up to just
Yeah, I was just trying to see whether I could find the date that the Muppets got their own TV show or whatever, but I can't seem to see that. But still, like Jim Henson got his fame way before
uh,
1979.
so films,
The Dark Crystal. Oh yeah, I remember that. I was thinking about that earlier too. That he did.
television. Let's see. Sam and Friends, that was aired on WRC TV. Sam, Harry the Hipster, Kermit, so, um, like theater, Tales of Dean Show. These are a lot of these are shows that Jim had. Yeah, because I do remember the Muppets.
Okay, so the Muppets came out. Muppets on Puppets.
Yeah,
1972. The no
yeah.
Muppets Valentine's
Well,
Show.
19. Let's see, the Muppets Valentine's Show, the Muppet Musicians of the Muppet Show, Sex and Violence, 1930. The Muppet Show itself. This is the one I remember. The Muppet
Yeah,
Show itself ran from 1976. I knew it was in the 70s because I remember seeing it growing up a bit. 1976 to 1981. This is the one that had the two guys sitting in the balcony.
yeah.
So, um, but yeah, that was what it was there. So, anyway, so with all that, some other interesting news that came out this past week too that I thought might be
Yeah. To
interesting.
me, that Disney putting them the Disney Legend status, just Disney's trying to capitalize on their fame, which came way before Disney was even a thing where it could.
Well, okay, no, I think if anything, it's the exact. I think it's the exact opposite, Rick. They're not
What do you mean?
necessarily capitalizing on their fame. What they're doing is they're keeping their fame from damaging their current product.
No, 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 no. I mean, like by putting Jim Henson and Stan Lee on that list of Disney legends. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they're trying to capitalize on Stan Lee's fame and Jim Henson's fame
Well,
to
they may. Yeah, well, let's see. We do know that they did buy out Marvel, at least Marvel Animation Studios, as to whether or not they actually bought out Marvel Comics. I'm not
yeah,
really sure on that, but they did buy out Marvel Animation Studio.
yeah, but
Disney produces a lot of the more current Marvel
yeah,
stuff.
they're Disney is doing they're putting up the money producing, however you want to say it, the more modern stuff for Marvel, for animation and movies. I agree with that, but Marvel had their fame way before that.
Yeah.
Stan Lee had his fame way before Disney was even a thing where they could buy Marvel
Well,
Studios.
okay. The Walt Disney Company has been around for 100 years.
Yeah,
Walt and Roy Disney started up Walt Disney
yeah,
Studios back in like 1923. It's been 100 years. Okay, now
okay,
they're different. They're kind of a different company now than they were back then. They were primarily
yeah.
doing like
Well, I'm not saying since they existed. I'm just saying since they were able to buy them, being able to buy them. Disney's only been buying stuff up for what, the last 20 years?
And look who's joined us.
Hey, Metal.
Hey.
Hey, Metal. What he was saying, stolen honor. So just to kind of get you caught up on what we were just talking about here, I went over an article from Bounding into Comics. So there's a rumor going around that Disney is signing some of what they call their Disney Legends under contract for the sole purpose of silencing them to keep them from criticizing their newer projects.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
You've seen the article, or you've just seen that as a possibility?
No, I've seen the rumor going around.
Yeah.
I just went over the article from Bounding into Comics where they were just talking about that.
Yeah, and they showed a list of names that are digital legends. Whether these are the people that actually have been bought off or not, purposely or whatever, who knows? But there's two names on the list at least that I'm like, they shouldn't even be on the list, and that's Stan Lee, Jim Henson, because they had their fame way before Disney. I won't say was thought of, but because before Disney and Disney and them were a thing. Like Marvel, they didn't buy Marvel. What?
I think
years
the
ago?
best way to say I think the point you're making there, Rick, is that Marvel was already famous before Disney bought them out.
Yeah.
Because if technically, Disney is actually older. The Walt Disney Company is actually older than the Marvel Company is.
Yeah.
Okay. As you
but
know,
they
Marvel,
probably had their fame
Marvel
around the
started
same
out
time.
as Timely Comic in like 1941, and then actually they didn't become Marvel until the 60s. Okay, so technically they've been, but it wasn't until, let's say, the last 20, 25 years where they, when they were in the same sphere, sort of, because Disney was more or less an animation studio, a cartoon studio, okay, theme parks and all that, and Marvel was comics. So they were two different.
But Marvel was even doing animation back in the 60s.
Yeah. Well, in fact, one of their first projects, even before, now everybody knows about the 1967 Spider-Man series, but the year before that, they did Marvel Superheroes. And the company that did both those shows, Marvel Superheroes and the 67 Spider-Man series, was Grant Ray Lawrence Productions. So Metal, so did you have anything you want to add to the conversation on what we just talked about in regards to like the Disney legend, rumor, whether or not you believe it's true or
well,
what you think of that situation as a whole?
They could only actually be hitting up their estate anyway, because those people are all gone.
Well, no, Jim Henson and Stan Lee are, but there was other names on it, like Dick Van Dyke, who's alive, Tim Allen, of course, who's alive.
I'm not surprised if it's actually true. I do think there's credence to the rumor. Personally, Disney is not even Disney anymore. It's the name of a company, but they haven't been Disney since they outed Roy from the company.
And Roy was
Roy Disney was his nephew.
Okay, yeah, well,
because his brother was Roy. I can't remember the name of the order. There's like a Roy F, a Roy P. They're all Roys, but they have like a different middle name.
So what do you think? Yeah, I was 10 years old that year. Perfect Spider-Man audience. Yeah, so.
I wasn't born in '67, but I remember watching it in reruns. Yeah, I love that Spider-Man show growing up. Along with Rocket Robin Hood, which was made by the same company, I believe.
Well, one of the other things we read in that article too, Metal, was, Disney had actually been accused of pulling that same stunt years ago, and that's one of the reasons we got into the whole Jim Henson thing. So Steve Whitmire, who had been doing back in 2017, had been up to that point doing Kermit the Frog's voice since 1990, since after Jim
Yeah, I
Henson's
remember that.
passing. He went on today and said that they tried to pull that with him too, and he just said, that ain't happening." And one of the points I was just making too about that was, well, I mean, if I have to sign a NDA to get this award, then maybe you're not the company I thought you were.
Well, I remember the Steve one was especially egregious because what people don't realize when it comes to the Muppets is that you're not just a voice, but you also control it, and you're basically the personality of the Muppet. So, like, anybody who becomes Kermit has to do like a lot of almost like theatrical acting in the same way that like the people who have to walk around the parks and pretend they are the characters too. You have to like become the character, and every time they replace it, they have to go through all this trouble of basically recrafting somebody to be Kermit, right? It's basically like killing Kermit. He knows the character better than the people firing him.
Yeah.
Well, the thing too is that
And he took over from Jim Henson too when Jim Henson died. It said in 1990. So it's like I don't know how long he played it before Disney got a hold of him. I don't know when they bought the Muppets. I'm not sure whether anybody else knows when Disney bought the Muppets.
I thought he took over from Jim's son, because I thought, which one was it? I thought it was Brian was the one who played Kermit in between.
Well, I assumed it was Jim Henson that played Kermit. Kermit's voice.
Well, the article said that he took over from Jim.
Maybe.
So
I thought I remembered that one of Jim's sons took over Kermit directly.
Yeah.
That might
Well,
have just
does
been,
it
like, an
say
interim
he
thing.
took over for Jim, or just does it say he took over?
I specifically remember they said that he took over for Jim. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, I'm just not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure it said Jim too, but it doesn't hurt to check. Woody says if a cat has 9 lives, maybe a frog has 3.
Yeah, I guess he did. I guess his son just played some of the other roles.
Yeah, because it says to.
Yeah, no, I looked it up right here.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I remember
we did
that
read.
Brian
I
Henson
read
did come in and he did a lot of the voices. I didn't realize that he just never played Kermit.
Yeah.
Maybe he could not get the voice.
But basically, if that rumor is true, though, if they are doing that, and that is kind of messed up. It's I know a lot of people would use a word that rhymes with itty.
With kitty?
Rhymes with
Did
kitty.
a word that rhymes with kitty?
Yeah, and has a very nasty connotation.
It can smell.
Mm-hmm.
Kitties do it in their litter box.
Yeah. So, anyways, so yeah, that's basically what we're just talking about. There are a couple other articles that caught my attention too that I thought would be good conversation. The next article I wanted to talk about, get your go over and get your viewpoints on. Now, you guys heard that they're doing they've done a kind of a sequel to the X-Men cartoon from the 90s, right? You guys heard about that?
Yeah.
I heard that they're going to. Yeah.
And I have very low expectations for it.
Oh well, considering all the diversity talk, and like Allison Court had already stated that she was not going to reprise her role of Jubilee because she wanted to give a Chinese Canadian actress a shot at it, since Jubilee is actually Chinese American. I remember that whole spoof going on, or that whole.
Oh, and I hate that too, because this is the first time that she opted out. But Allison Court is one of my favorite voice actresses, and she hasn't been reprising any of her roles. They even replaced her in the Resident Evil franchise as Clara Redfield, and like, why?
Yeah. That's really like until recently, I didn't even, well, maybe not so recently, but I didn't even realize when I watched that cartoon, I did not realize Jubilee was supposed to be Asian in any way, shape, or form.
Well,
Really?
they didn't
Because
even
she
draw
seems
her as
very,
much
very
like
clearly
that.
Asian.
She,
So what
I
are
don't
you
know.
saying?
I was, I'm not sure how 97.
Well, okay. The original X-Men, the animated series, ran from 92 to 97. So the new cartoon is called X-Men 97. It's supposed to 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 basically continue from
Where that
just
one left
after,
off.
from basically from it's like, so in Graduation Day, that was where Professor Xavier had been attacked. He was he was dying. Everybody had come to, and then Lilandra had to come and take him back to her world to basically
Yeah.
save him. That was, and he hit.
Not, from what I get, that's supposed to be in the,
And X-Men 97 is supposed to go from that point forward.
yeah.
Now, now there have been a few actors and actresses that have been replaced. From what I understand, Norm Spencer, who had passed away, was obviously replaced. I think Cedric Smith. Well, Cedric Smith actually voiced Charles Xavier there, so no, if he was replaced. Actually, one of the ones that surprised me that was replaced was Catherine Disher. She was the one who voiced Jean Grey. She also portrayed Dr. Natalie Lambert on Forever Night. But anyways, let me get to Woody's comments here. So Woody was saying it was only about a year or two between when Jim died and when that guy started doing Kermit. And then thanks for joining in the medal. So, anyways, basically though, the next article we'll go over is that, because there's another interesting little tidbit in the whole arguments over diversity. We have to voices have to match the ethnic color. And this article is going over is talking about the guy that they got, and this is a very similar situation to another article we read about the Lilo and Stitch live action movie. Hey Rex, hey, I sent you the link, so if you want to join us in the studio here, you're more than welcome to get in on the conversation here. Hail Mike and Rick. Hail Metal. And of course, if you haven't already, if you can like and share the screen so everyone can get some more friendly people in here, that'd be appreciated. With that, let's get to this article here. So this is in regards to the spin-off series X-Men 97. So let's,
Or what's supposed to be the continuation series.
right. So Marvel accused of racism as critics claim allegedly cast actor Guy Augustine is too light-skinned to voice Sunspot in X-Men 97. There was a similar article and the Lilo and Stitch one I was telling you guys about, where same thing. They felt that even though the girl was a native Hawaiian, she was not dark enough to portray Lilo's older sister.
Yeah.
By
First of all, it's a cartoon character. Second one of all, isn't Sunspot supposed to be Asian?
No, he's
Underneath.
South American. He's from Brazil, actually.
Oh, okay.
He's Brazilian.
You can even see it in his name. It's Roberto da Costa.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, his real name, not his code name, obviously.
Yeah, I didn't know that. But, I was down in Brazil.
All right. So, anyways, getting to the article here. So, all right. In the latest example of the identity politics obsessed will never be satisfied, despite their reported casting of Guy Agostini as the ethnically similar Roberto Sunspot da Costa in the upcoming X-Men 97 animated series. showing an obvious commitment to quote unquote inclusive casting, or smaller quotes there. Marvel Studios has been accused of racism and whitewashing by a large swathe of fans who believe that the Brazilian voice actor is too light skinned to properly portray the South American mutant. Mind you, this is a cartoon, right? He's voicing the character. He's not actually physically being the character. He's voicing the character.
Yeah, but then there's the main part of all. He is a Brazilian actor,
Yeah, and there were
voice
people.
actor. He is from the damn country that the character's from.
Yeah, right. It's
Well,
that's why they say
Rick,
never give in to these people, right? Because they'll never
somebody
be
being
satisfied.
from Brazil doesn't mean anything because Brazilian is a nationality. It is not an ethnicity. In the same way that the states are. Brazil actually has a very, very similar history to the United States, where there's a bunch of different ethnicities that have been native to it for like the last couple hundred years.
Yeah, but so you guys said he was South American.
I don't care anyway
so,
because he's a voice. I think anybody could voice anyone. I'm just being specific to how
yeah,
Brazil is as a country and the ethnic makeup of it.
yeah. But I guess my point is, I'm not sure what color skin Sunspot had before he became all black, literally, because of his mutant thing. But like you said, he's South American. As you said, it's similar history to the States.
Brazilian, yeah.
So maybe he's a South American that has similar skin to us. He's from South.
There's a lot of very, very white Brazilians. And there's
Yeah,
also
I
a lot
know.
of very, very dark Brazilians. He could have been anywhere under the sun if we don't know what he was like before he became a Spot.
Yeah, yeah, and I know this. I've actually been to Brazil. I saw the people. I interacted with them. Yeah, they have that bit of an accent, but they're just people like you and me.
And you gotta remember too, they were once a territory of Portugal,
Spain.
actually.
No, Portugal, not Spain. He was right.
Oh, okay.
There was a
because they do speak Portuguese.
There's an agreement based on the meridian. I can't remember the name of it. It was like the 82nd meridian or something like that. But basically, everything on that side was for Portugal, and everything on the other side was for Spain. Spain thought they were getting a much better deal out of it, but they didn't realize just how big of a mass curves out, and they gave them. And Portugal ended up getting like half of the continent, all being one big country at this point.
Yeah.
Right,
Now,
so
I'm sure in the comics it does show probably somewhere what he looked like before.
Well, I do remember
power
that
kicked in.
it was Michael Coleman who voiced Sunspot in X-Men Evolution back in the early 2000s. So that much I do remember. But anyways, getting on more with the article here. While the Disney subsidiary has been relatively light on official details regarding the fan favorite X-Team's return to the small screen, fans got their first glimpse at the series' alleged casting, courtesy of a recent filing made by Marvel with the U.S. Copyright Office on behalf of the series' very first episode.
I'm thinking that. Okay, it's gonna say here.
As initially brought to public attention by Twitter user @ScarletWitch the filing in question reveals the Merry Band of Mutants voice cast will include Ray Chase, who is a LA-based voice actor here, here they're listing.
He played the main character of Final Fantasy 15, Prince Noctis.
Yeah. Also, I know he was on Boruto. I know he had one of the main characters on Boruto as well. As Cyclops replacing the late. Go ahead.
I was saying this one makes sense because he's replacing a dead guy.
Yeah.
There's one of the few ones. Jennifer Hale, and we all know Jennifer Hale is. Sitting here, female Commander Shepard from Mass Effigy trilogy, but also she's done quite a number of work, including Felicia Hardy and Spider-Man the Animated Series, among other things. I think she's Emerald Empress and Legion of Superheroes as well. As Jean Grey replacing Catherine Disher. Now, Catherine Disher, I know, is still alive. So now maybe this is in part due to the fact that maybe they're doing more of the recording in LA. Like the original X-Men animated series was done up in Canada, and that's why you had a lot of the Canadian voice actors. But considering that they still retained at least some of the cast members here, again, I'm a little bit surprised that they replaced Catherine Disher here.
Well, we do also have
well,
to
maybe
consider.
she just didn't want to do anything.
Yeah.
What is her career at this
Some
point?
people just don't want to reprise roles sometimes.
Yeah, Lenore Zan, who is reprising her role as Rogue. Lenore Zan's has done a few again. Here they say Roll.exe and Mega Man NT Warrior. I know she was also in like Cadillac and Dinosaurs. She I think at least she's actually gone on to a bit of a political career too in Canada. There, I think she, Rick, you would obviously know this more than me, but whatever your version of the House of Representatives here in the States is, I think she, I don't know if you call it House of Commons or what, but I think she was a representative in your country for a while there.
As an ambassador?
No, she
Not
was
as
a
an
member of
ambassador. No,
parliament.
like House.
She was
like
part of parliament.
Oh, okay.
Commons.
Do you know whether it was federal or
She was
provincial?
in the House of Commons.
Oh, did you look that up, or did you already know that?
I looked it up.
Okay, so House of Commons, that I think that's
For,
federal. So that would be MP, member
Yeah,
of
the
parliament.
riding of Cumberland.
George Boozer reprising his role as Beast. Of course, he was Grandpa Granger in Beyblade.
The only thing I gotta laugh at is if these characters are reprising their roles, why do they need to say some other role that they did?
Well, just to give. Well, because I mean,
I get. Well, maybe I guess for somebody who has never seen the
who they
original
were and the
series.
reprisals, but not every newer fans who had not seen the previous series would not have known that. So to give them an
Well,
idea,
if you just say they
give them
were
an
the
idea of what
original
the voice
voice,
sounded like, probably.
if you just said they were the original voice, then they could just go look up the original thing, because even somebody might not have seen the Mega Man NT Warriors, so they might not even know that voice.
Holly Shaw as Jubilee replacing Allison Court.
There was an interesting fact about George Buza, though, is that he's done a lot of live action stuff, not just voiceover. And he was in the original X-Men movie in 2000. He played a kind of like one-off background character. He was one of the truckers in the bar at the beginning.
Cool.
So now the Holly Chow casting, that doesn't surprise me, because basically I remember I remember reading the article on Bounding in the Comic here about that, where Allison Court had specifically said she was not going to reprise the role because she wanted to give somebody of quote unquote Chinese descent a chance to play it. Now, according to the previous reports too, she's still going to do other roles in the show, just not Jubilee.
Yeah, I look at that, and to me, she doesn't look that Oriental. I know you were saying to you she does.
Me, she clearly, not just the way she looks, right? Between her face shape and her skin tone, but you add that together with the fact that her last name is Lee, and I'm like, that is clearly a Chinese person.
Oh yeah, I guess in that sense, yeah.
Her name is Jubilation Lee, nickname Jubilee.
Yeah. I just never thought about that part.
In the comics,
because Jubilee,
I think her proper skin tone and all that was depicted a little bit more in X-Men Evolution.
Yeah,
too.
but jubilation, or jubilee. I think more of like the year jubilee from Jewish stuff, and of course, I don't even think she looks Jewish, but
Well, and also her powers were kind of almost stereotypically Chinese themed too, because fireworks were invented in China.
yeah. I guess if maybe if I was thinking a little more, I could have picked it up, but I didn't pick
Well,
up on the
her real
subtle
name was
clues.
Jubilation Lee, which she may turn into Jubilee because a Jubilee is a celebration. It's a type of celebration. Jubilation is a type of
Yeah,
celebration.
yeah. And
Festival.
usually you set off fireworks during big celebrations, and her powers are basically fireworks. It's like
The
she's
ability,
all just
yeah,
thematically right there.
yeah. In fact, a running gag within the original um, X-Men cartoon there in the '90s was she kept blowing up electronics because of her powers. She didn't have full control of her powers at that point. She would keep blowing up her electronics equipment. So that was kind of almost like a running gag within the show.
Yeah, don't give her a Game Boy.
Let's see, Christopher Britton reprising his role as Mr. Sinister. For those who hadn't seen that before, he also voiced Soichiro Yagami in Death Note.
That's Mr. Yagami. That's Light's father, the
Right.
police chief, of the main character.
Let's see, Alison Seeley Smith reprising the role of Storm. Now here's an interesting little thing about that too, because they kind of went back and forth. I think they started out with Alison Seeley Smith, then toward the end of the series they went with Iona Morris, and now they're bringing Alison Seeley Smith. Part of the reason why they had to do the change is because of course at that time you didn't have the idea of remote recording like you do now. And I think Alison Seeley Smith lived here in Southern California, like in LA, and she didn't like having to go back and continually go back and forth. So they brought in Iona Morris to kind of like replace her. Alison Seeley Smith did reprise the role of Storm rather in the during Storm's appearance in the Secret Wars story arc in the Spider-Man '90s cartoon. So Alison Seeley Smith also was Rana Valona in Diobleek.
Woody said something in the comments chat.
Here in Dogpatch, the preacher is named Jubilation. It
Jubilation T. Corpone? Corn Pound? I'm not sure how you pronounce that.
yeah. So, anyways, getting back to the article here, Cal Dodd as Wolverine reprising his role. He was also Ron Rapidfire in Paw Patrol Ready Race Rescue. AJ Lacasico replacing Tony Daniels in Gambit. He was
Tony Daniels is still the voice, and I hear in my head when I read Gambit.
Well, you do know that he was not the first guy to voice.
No, I know, but that's the one I hear.
Yeah, Chris Potter actually was the guy who originally voiced him, who also was in Kung Fu: The Legend Continues too. AJ Lacasico voiced Prince Lotor and Voltron, Legendary Defender. Matthew Waterson, they're bringing in as Magneto, replacing the late David Hemblem. He was Doomslayer in Doom Eternal.
Yeah, Waterson's a good actor. He's good for replacing somebody like Hemblem.
Yeah, and finally Augustini as newcomer Sunspot. He voiced Carmelo in 11-11 Enmi Quadra Nada Quadra.
Yeah, it's a local Brazilian animation.
Yeah. In parentheses here, it should be noted that as per showrunner Bo DeMaio, synopsis listed on U.S. Copyright Office's website, not an official synopsis of the show. First introduced in Marvel graphic novel, Volume 1, Number 4, DaCosta began life as a mutant hero when his power to channel solar energy manifested in response to his being attacked by a group of Brazilian children who assaulted him for his darker skin color.
Hey, Apex. I don't know much about Brazil, but somehow I find that hard to believe.
Rick, you sent him the studio link, right?
Yeah.
Hey Apex, if you want to join us, I think Rick. I asked Rick to send you the link if you wanted to join us in the studio here and get in on the conversation more. So, anyways, as we continue on here, and if you haven't already, if you guys can, of course, like and share the stream, here we can get some more friendly people in here. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. And we'll try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. So, continuing on with the article here. After finding himself in the sights of the Hellfire Club's Donald Pierce and his thirst for mutant blood, DaCosta was eventually saved from being outright murdered thanks to the swift intervention of Professor Xavier. Offered a place at the esteemed mutant school for gifted youngsters, DaCosta soon and famously became a member of a de facto group of fresh recruits known as the New Mutants, who were featured in the X-Men Evolution cartoon in the early 2000s.
Yeah, and they a couple years ago they did do a movie for them. I never watched it yet, but it was supposed to be more horror oriented. So
yeah, as with most teenagers, DaCosta would, at least to an extent, eventually grow out of his original hot-headed personality, and over time find himself fulfilling ever more important roles across the larger Marvel universe, including serving as both the leader of the American government-sanctioned U.S. Avengers and the supreme leader of AIM.
AIM.
Let's see now. There's Apex. Sorry, I just had to check that. Hey, Apex.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, Apex.
I have that book. I have that original New Mutants book back in the day.
Cool.
Yeah. So do you know what we're talking about here right now? What this article is going?
I barely got into it. I just tapped in there.
Okay. Well, so basically, you remember the X-Men cartoon from the 90s, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so they over the past couple of years they've been working on kind of the continuation of that series, and this is the latest in articles where they're talking about how people are making a big stink about the voice actors needing to be the same ethnic looking individual for the character that they're voicing.
No, it's called acting. They should know better.
Well, yeah,
but it's called voice acting.
That's right. That's right.
Well, it's kind of funny.
The image you watch of the person is on screen, portrayed by a drawing.
Yeah.
Here's okay. So, in a previous article talking about this newer series, Allison Court had come out and said she was not going to reprise the role of Jubilee. Allison Court was the voice of Jubilee in the first X-Men cartoon from back in the 90s. She had, in an earlier article, like from last year, she basically had said that, she was not going to reprise the role of Jubilee because she wanted to give a Chinese Canadian or Chinese person of Chinese descent the chance to voice Jubilee. In the name of diversity. we
Oh
have
my
kind of a
God.
similar situation here. Not the same exactly, but we have this situation is more akin to what happened in regards to like similar to the situation with the live action Lilo and Stitch movie where people were coming out against that girl who was going to portray Nami because they felt she wasn't dark skinned. They're basically saying that the actor they're getting the voice Sunspot here,
Mhm.
although he's Brazilian, he's apparently not a dark enough Brazilian
Oh
to be
Lord.
worthy to play Sunspot, to voice Sunspot.
No, to be able to voice
Mhm.
Sunspot.
Right.
That's such crap. Oh, I can't believe they.
Oh, you should have been
Can
here
we
a little
all
earlier.
just
We're
get
talking about another
along?
situation
I'm saying.
where there's a rumor going around that Disney's hiring up some of their old "quote unquote" legends to silence them from criticizing their newer works. We're
Here
talking
comes
about that one
communism.
earlier.
Yeah.
Huh?
Here comes communism.
Yeah.
On its heels. That's too bad.
Yeah.
It's just hire the people that's good at what they do. You
Yeah.
hire just the best. Not they don't care what skin tone you are or which origin you came from and all this
And it
nonsense.
shouldn't really matter because their voice in this case, it really is ridiculous because they're
Mhm.
voicing a character. They're not, they're voicing a character. They're not actually physically. Now, in the situation, as I was mentioning with the Lilo and Stitch live action movie
Yeah.
earlier, and I don't know if you heard about that one, but the girl that they had cast to be Nami on that one, the older sister, they were
Mhm.
saying, well, she's not, even though she was another Native Hawaiian, somebody who was born there and all that, she apparently was not dark enough and not indigenous enough to portray Nami in that one. So that was, but anyway,
Well, obviously, I think this is all stupid. But if I was one of these voice actors that was taking over, I'd say, or I'd probably be thinking, well, if you don't want the money, I'll be sure to take it.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
If you're stupid enough to refuse a job, which means money,
Mhm.
over this stupidity, I'll take your money.
well, here's the thing too, and going back to the whole thing with Allison Court too.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's sort of what I'm talking about for her, especially.
Yeah, I mean, she's still gonna be a part of this series. She's just not reprising her role as Jubilee. They're
Yeah,
gonna
but
have
she's not going to make as
do
much
other
money.
voices in the show. So, granted, it may not be as big a hit financially, but still, yeah, you're right. It's kind of stupid. They'd be refusing, to do the role, like you get, just over diversity, But they'd argue, well, it's worth it to give somebody else a chance, or for
Yeah,
the sake
but
of
I'm sure this
diversity.
other actress or voice actress is getting money for roles, or has been. I could be wrong. I don't know what any of these people's thing is, but in acting, it's very stupid if you're given a role to give it up because you don't know when your next job is going to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, okay, we know that a couple of replacements were due to the voice actors actually passing on. The one that surprised me more than anything else was they replaced Jean Grey's voice. She was originally voiced by Catherine Disher. Now, I know Catherine's like 60, 60, 61, I believe.
Yeah.
But and not only did she do Jean Grey, but around the same time, she was also Dr. Natalie Lambert on Forever Night. If you guys ever saw that show.
I watched a couple episodes of it. I don't know who the character is exactly, but
she was the coroner friend of Nick Knight.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
The redhead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyways, back to the article here. While most of the aforementioned supposed cast reveals came and went with little controversy, Augustini's role as Sunspot caught the attention of the internet outrage machine, who responded to the announcement by not only disregarding Marvel's efforts to preemptively appease them by casting a Brazilian in the role of Marvel's most famous Brazuca, but also, and unsurprisingly, taking offense to the fact that the voice actor was not as dark-skinned as his animated counterpart. And then, quote here, "Ite,
Um,
just cancel the show, laugh out loud," unquote, wrote T'Challa Fett. Quote, "Next thing, they'll announce a white guy is voicing Bishop."
we lost Apex. Like I said, it's like I don't know how dark Sunspot was beforehand, but you can't really get that anybody that dark as Sunspot is once he's got his mutant powers, unless they're most likely Jamaican.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and regarding Bishop, I know that Phil Aiken voiced Bishop in the original, and is another guy. He was another guy. He was actually on Highlander, and I see you there, Apex.
I was
Yeah,
frozen.
I saw a moment ago your camera was like flipping back and forth there. Everything all
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's just technical issues. I'm back now.
Well, you said you have the original comic where he appeared, Apex.
The
How
original
dark?
Mutants.
How
Yeah.
dark of a skin did it show how dark of a skin Sunspot had before his mutant transformation?
It was just it wasn't a dark. It was just dark enough that you could tell he's Brazilian. That was it. It wasn't that dark.
Okay, here's what I want to add, because the way Rick is pointing that out. Let me ask this, because of course I haven't read the actual comic at this point, and it'll probably be a while before I do, if we ever get to that point in my lifetime.
It's pretty good.
When he manifested his powers, when Sunspot manifested his powers, did he get dark? Did his skin tone get darker?
Well, it turned black with a lot of sunspot thing around him. He's completely, like an indigo.
Okay, that's when his powers are activated, though. And that now, did he remain that dark when he turned his powers off, or did he go back to?
I don't think he can turn his powers off. Can he?
He can turn his powers off. Yeah, he can go back to normal Roberto da Castro, originally like he appeared before.
And yeah,
turn him off. Yeah.
Okay, because I think that needed to be cleared up too. Because I remember even in watching the X-Men Evolution cartoon, he could go back and forth between his Sunspot form and his regular form, or his non-mutant form, or whatever.
I don't even remember Sunspot being a character until just now.
I remember hearing about him and seeing him a couple times here and there.
My first exposure to him was in X-Men Evolution, believe it or not. So.
Yeah, I watched that whole cartoon. I still don't remember that he was in it.
Well, because he was not highlighted as among the New Mutants. He was one of the least highlighted characters. Okay,
right.
Of the new mutants, some of the ones who were more highlighted during that show included Iceman, Bobby Drake, Berserker. Berserker was highlighted a bit more.
Probably what's his name, sister? The Russian sister.
Oh, Eliana.
Yeah. Cyclops' sister, not Cyclops.
Not in Evolution.
Yeah, Magic.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Ileana wasn't in Evolution, though.
She was in. She had her own miniseries, so she got kidnapped by Belasco. She had her 4-issue miniseries back
in the 80s. Comics.
Yeah, in the comics. Yeah,
I've seen her in a couple of animated things. I'm not sure which.
She was in New Mutants movie. I heard.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie yet.
I haven't either. I heard it was mixed reviews. It was good.
There's a picture there.
Yeah.
Of Sunspot. If you go up just a little bit.
Oh.
That's from the new show, I guess. Well, this is also
that's
the
from
guy
a few different sources.
This is the one person that we just saw responded. The one who said, "Ike, just cancel the show, laugh out loud," quote unquote. Wrote to T'Challa that, quote, "Next time they'll announce a white guy is voicing Bishop," unquote. Now, the guy who did voice Bishop in the original X-Men cartoon was Philip Aiken, who was Charlie DeSalvo in Highlander with Adrian Paul.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, he's a bit white, but I can tell that he's Latino or whatever.
Well, who cares? I mean, as long as he does a good job voicing the
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
They care for some
with-
reason.
With a
That
voice
gets
actor,
too much.
with a voice actor, you're right. I don't care.
Yeah. So, boy, you're not going to see him on screen. You're just going to see him in a line drawing being voiced by an actor.
Yeah.
I wish
And
just.
he's kind of guy boy, a good voice, eh?
Yeah, there you go.
quote, this is literally Afro-Latino erasure, bleated at Blurred 807. Blurred 807, okay. Mr. Blurred.
So glad I don't work in Hollywood. I would make a lot of enemies and just tear them apart.
Quote, by the way, this is like a white actor voicing T'Challa, declared at Angry Krakoa. Don't you just love the hyperbole here? Don't you just
Yeah, they
love
can
the
change all
hyperbole?
the white actors to black actors, but
Yeah,
That's
Photoshop.
that's a bit hyperbolic, don't you think?
no, I just mean look at the Little Mermaid and
Oh man,
and different other ones like that we've seen.
just come up
Jimmy
with,
Olsen,
just come up more movies I don't want to watch.
Perry
Thanks a lot.
White.
Well, I'm just like,
Yeah.
what would be the
Perry
problem with
White,
a white
who's
guy
not
voicing
white.
T'Challa if you can't tell? It's just a
Yeah.
voice.
Why not a blue-eyed Caucasian blonde actor to play Luke Cage? Why not that? If you're gonna do that,
Like nobody
Sure.
cared when Phil Lamar played Samurai
Just
Jack.
to flip the birds
Right.
to the criers. Just to flip you'd cast that just to flip the bird at the criers there, Apex.
exactly. Yep.
Let's see. Quote, I don't mind a certain level of blind voice casting if the diversity behind the scenes is overall diverse. But a character like I guess it's supposed to be like, but I guess they kind of typo there. Like Sunspot, whose origins involve racial discrimination and is constantly whitewashed, sheepishly put forth at Evan Reed's Comics. Quote, I think we should have gone Afro-Latino this time, unquote. But the thing is, the guy is Brazilian, though.
I was going to say, listen, you're lucky that you're even going to get somebody with authentic accent instead of some Canadian guy faking a Brazilian accent like they would have done back in the day.
Is that a jab at me, Metal?
No, the studio was up in Canada originally. All the original actors are usually Canadian.
Right,
It would have just been some Canadian
the
guy
origin-
faking an
the-
accent.
That's true. That's called acting. Yeah.
Yeah, the original X-Men cartoon from 92 to 97 was actually, the voice acting was done up in Canada. It was actually done near your neck of the woods, Rick. It was done in Toronto.
Oh yeah, I
Wow.
can believe that.
Yeah.
Norm Spencer, Catherine Disher, Cedric Smith, Alison Court, they were all from that area, Toronto.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite children's show was up from that area. That Allison Court was the main character. Was the big comfy couch. She played Lunette the Clown.
Oh wow.
Now, some of those actors in that area also were involved in the Deke dub of Sailor Moon too.
Okay.
Yeah, that was because Deke was local.
Oh.
They're a Canadian company.
Yeah.
Hey.
So, quote, why is he white though? Unquote, questioned at Kaluluvut. Some of these names. Quote, Sunspot is Afro-Brazilian. And part of his backstory is that he was literally hate crimed for being black. I refuse to believe you couldn't find one Afro-Brazilian to voice him, Disney, unquote.
Well, maybe they couldn't find a good.
Yeah,
voice
just
actor.
hire someone off the street if they were so happy to hire someone diversity wise for that role. That's what you get, Disney. Don't
and
hire
again, this is a reminder why you don't give in to these people.
never.
Why don't you guys talk among you and let's see. Abe, oh yeah, you actually did. Let me just check something here real quick. Oh yeah, you have a wrench as well. If you guys want to share links and talk to the I gotta give myself a little more light here, so I'll be right back. I'm gonna go here for a moment.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah, you don't see these people complaining when they blackwash characters.
Right. Yeah.
If you know,
Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
My
you know-
expectations for the show were already really low when they said it was coming back. I liked the show originally. Like, it's a good show. I went back and rewatched it, and I forgot just like how bad the end of the show was compared to the rest of it. Like that, it took like a nosedive plot wise, and I'm like, oh, but we're continuing right off of that. Could we rewind like maybe a season or two, and go from there instead of the end? Because it was,
Yeah.
ugh.
Well, I think the whole thing, Magneto taking over for Xavier, happened in the comics. That's they did a lot of stuff in the comics, a lot more. It was better cinematic universe for the X-Men than the movies.
Yeah, that's true.
Why is it every time they do anything with Dark Phoenix is bad? They just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They
Well, they
butchered
did a
it.
great job with
twice.
the X-Men 90 series for Dark Phoenix, I must say.
You guys ever see the Dark Phoenix movie that came out a few years back?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
I've seen both of the X-Men live action X-Men movies.
Yeah,
with that.
well,
And it's
okay,
totally
yeah,
sucked.
the original '90s cartoon of X-Men, the Dark Phoenix saga, that one was a pretty good arc they did. Of course,
I
you
hated
had
it.
that was still when Catherine Disher was voicing Jean Grey there. So, anyways, getting back to the article here. Let's see what more crying these people are doing.
What?
Quote, "Why do we have to keep doing this?" exclaimed Death the Dreamer. Quote, Sunspot is a black man. Yes, he is mixed, but he is visibly black. I thought we were overcasting white voice actors in black and brown roles. Okay, I'm wondering where that came from. Overcast.
Like to stop, they stopped doing that.
Should.
But okay, it's like if you want to blackwash our characters, we'll whitewash your black characters.
Yeah, why not? That'd be a war. War of the
And at least
races.
we're only doing it to the voice ones,
That's right.
Oh, Grant, we're coming up on 2 hours, so this will probably be the last article I do because we're coming up on 2 hours already. But one of the other articles I was going to probably cover with you guys that don't know if you heard about this, but that Eddie Murphy is considering. I guess I don't know if they're considering casting him or as a race swapped Inspector Clouseau in a Pink Panther movie coming out.
Yeah, I heard that either your show or somewhere else.
Yeah, I covered it the other day, but yeah, that was another one. I was going to cover that with you guys after this, but we're coming up on 2 hours already. So I'm done. So, anyways, quote, Roberto da Costa is an Afro-Brazilian, unquote, asserted at Black Home VA, quote, heavy on the Afro. Just say y'all don't know the comics and go, unquote.
Yes, but he's not playing the character. He's voice acting.
Yeah.
He's not going to appear on screen, people. So you see him instead of, what would look. You're going to see Sunspot as he's supposed to look.
Right.
That's all that matters.
Quote, this is why the Little Mermaid Cleopatra discourse is so tiring because Hollywood has been whitewashing characters of black descent forever. Okay, how's the Little Mermaid? If anything, they did the exact opposite with Little Mermaid.
Yeah, but no, I think they're saying, oh, this is why, talking about the blackwashing those characters is so tiring because they've whitewashed all these black characters for so long. No. Yeah, I think it's more the reverse.
Right.
I think there's more blackwashing of characters than whitewashing.
Said Copsmic Core, quote, but race swapping is now a problem when it's a white character being changed. Okay, using an Afro-Brazilian voice is important.
Why?
Well, okay.
Why?
Also, I think there's a bad mix of terminology with a lot of people because there definitely was a problem with race portrayal in older Hollywood. But it wasn't that they were whitewashing the characters. It was more of like a black-facing problem where they would take white actors and they would put just any type of makeup for them to play roles that maybe you could have casted. Another problem, though, that people don't realize is that the talent pool for early Hollywood was pretty limited. So, like, getting somebody of Arabic background to play an Arabic character was kind of rough early on. But, I mean, it's not to say that there wasn't an issue with that earlier. But all of the issues now are completely in the other direction.
In
and
older
worse.
Hollywood, you also had the whole issue with blackface happening.
Yeah, that's why I would say it's more of a black-facing problem. than
Judy
anything.
Garland. Yeah.
Hey, Tank.
I'm transracial. I identify as Sleestakian.
Sleestakian. Hail, Lorenzo Sleestak.
Yep. So, and then I did highlight a few minutes ago. So you guys might want to check out Apex's channel.
Thanks. You should.
Yeah. Good channel.
Thank you. Thank you guys.
Okay, so we get to see some pictures of him here. And
Yeah.
that's, it's fine that he's black. I have no problems with that. It's just like this, you don't need a black actor to voice.
No.
You don't need, if a black man was voicing a white guy in a thing, I'd have no problem with it.
It's fine.
Hashtag green faces.
In fact, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
In God of War. What's his name? Doug.
Kronos?
Yeah, well, no, he plays Kronos. I'm trying to remember his. It's Doug something. I can't remember his last name. But he played Teal'c back on Stargate, SG-1. And he voices a Greek man. Perfectly fine. He does a great voice of it. I wouldn't complain.
No. Exactly.
Yeah. Quote, this
It was Christopher Douglas Judge. That was his name. I remember the
Okay.
part.
Quote, this is an intentional choice to erase the blackness of this Kanan character.
Canon character.
The blackness.
I've always pronounced it Kanan, but
That's canon. Yeah.
It's Kanan.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I
canon.
think they forgot an end too.
No, because
Should be two
with
ends.
two ends. Okay, with two ends, it's the thing that shoots. It's a
Or a
canon.
TV show from the 70s. Canon.
Yeah.
William Conrad.
Accused at Escalafone Crown. Quote, this is the problem I have with race bending. Once again, Marvel Studios continues to show a sketchy pattern regarding black male representation.
But they're not race swapping the character.
Oh my
It's a
God.
damn-
It's just a
I know we've
freaking
said this
voice.
100 times already. It's a voice actor.
They kill me. They do kill me, don't they?
And of course, he's just reading over the comments. It's like,
Yeah. I'm
It's how-
transracial.
it's just how stupid can you be, people?
Too stupid. Yeah. Too stupid for
Green
no good.
face. Well, that's Chris. That's what Chris has been lately.
That's
Chris
the Hulk, man. He's green face. Come on.
Uh,
Gotta complain it to the Hulk now.
Or the lizard from Spider-Man.
There you go.
Or Killer
Yeah.
Croc.
Well, he's gray.
as of
Sometimes
writing,
he's green too.
as of writing, neither Marvel, Augustini, nor anyone else involved with the production of X-Men 97 has offered a public comment on the backlash. However, given the company's recent habit of prostrating themselves before the mob at even the slightest hint of controversy, it cannot be ignored that there exists a significant possibility that Marvel may end up recasting Augustini in order to please those who do not realize the core point of voice acting. Well, what do you guys have to say about that analysis?
I would
Very
say
correct.
ignore the Twitter twats out there who down people.
The
Oh, you
idiot.
guess this is that. Ignore them. Do the job. Do the best shit you can. Hire the best actors. Who cares what color they are, what race they are, blah blah blah. And just put out the product for crying out loud.
I say if Augustini loses this role, he should find out who those people are and sue them
There you go.
Well,
because
it's
they
kinda funny 'cause-
interfered with his job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, no. What I thought it was you, Metal, but I remember somebody kind of talking about something similar. Well, no, not similar to this, but like torturous interference. This sounds like torturous interference, but that was in another situation altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not tortious interference if it's random people saying stuff randomly on Twitter and possibly boycotting a show. It's only if somebody who has influence or any type of power goes behind the scenes and talks directly to people. Or you could even be in front of the scene, but you have to be talking directly to people. You have to get in between somebody's contract for it to be tortious interference. If they see what looks like a backlash and make their own decision, you have no grounds for damages.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyways,
unfortunately, you're right. He probably couldn't
The
sue no matter
conversation here
what
we're
he did
having
anything.
reminds me of I was just thinking back to the GI Joe series from the '80s, which you can watch portions of it on YouTube because they have a 24-hour channel. Hasbro does. And I don't know if you guys seen that one, but it reminds me, and I think it was in the Pyramid of Darkness episodes, right? There's a character Satin. You know who she's voiced by?
No.
Ketty Lee Lester, who is a black woman. Now, one of the other roles that she is known for, that you might remember her from. Have you guys ever seen Little House on the Prairie?
Nope, never.
Yeah. When I was a kid.
Ketty Sue Lester was Hester Sue Terhune. Right.
I don't know. It's been years since I've seen that show.
Hester Sue Terhune originally was the headmistress of a black blind school that eventually merged with Mary's blind
school. Okay, I know the character.
And then they ended up moving to Walnut Grove and starting a blind school there.
Oh, okay.
In fact, Harriet Olsen, who was of course portrayed by the late Catherine McGregor, made a big stink about it because not as much a stink, but big promotion out of it because she heard the name Hester Sue Terhune of the famous Terhunes. Didn't realize she was a black woman. Thinking this was a lady of like culture and all that.
She is a lady of culture, just a different culture.
Yeah.
But like nobody's up in arms about that. Ketty Lee Lester was a black woman who voiced a white character back in like 1985.
Wow. See, that's your side voice talent just for the talent, not because they're their race. That's what it should be.
Yeah, so there have been some actors who did get a lot, like Arthur Burghardt. He did the voice. Now, Dexter, I don't know if he was black. he was said to be from Scotland, so I don't know if under the metal mask he was white or not. But Arthur Berghart also played Stalker in G.I. Joe. He was also Devastator in Transformers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, heck, although I think when I'm thinking it was more live action, what was I thinking about? Something. I forget what character. Oh, maybe I'll think about it in a second or two.
Anyways, getting back to the article. Oh, we're finished with the article. Per the above U.S. copyright filing, Sunspot is on track to flare onto Disney Plus alongside his fellow mutants in X-Men 97 on January 3rd, 2024.
All right.
Now, before we leave here, we won't go over the article because, as I said, we're already at like 2 hours here.
Over 2 hours.
Over 2 hours, but let me show you. I'll just kind of show you the headline and throw a piece of it here because this is off of something else that I covered this past week as well. As I get to it. Oh, there it is. Eddie Murphy reportedly in negotiations to star as race-swapped Inspector Clouseau in upcoming Pink Panther reboot. Now, mind you, not that there aren't any like black French people, mind you, but considering the time it was originally created, and
Yeah, but the just like the last version of it, they updated it to things. So
it was Steve Martin.
I'm not sure how I feel about that one.
This is nothing new for Eddie Murphy. I mean, he did the same thing with Dr. Dolittle.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, funny you mentioned that, Metal, because that's in the article when I read it this past week. They actually said that they made that very same reference.
And I think the Nutty Professor too.
Yeah, because the original Nutty Professor was played by Jerry Lee Lewis.
Hey.
And the original Nutty Professor, if I remember correctly, that was actually a production of Disney. So, all right. Well, so we're at 2 hours 17 minutes here, so we'll probably start to wrap things up here. So,
I know what I was going to say about not so much voice acting. Like if you have to have somebody of a particular thing to do a certain voice or act with a certain voice. We never would have got James Doohan as Scotty.
Right.
And that would have drastically changed Star Trek, I think.
Sure. That would.
Huh. Well, what about that? Because I don't fully
James Doohan, who portrayed Scotty on Star Trek, he wasn't Scottish. He put on that accent. He did that accent just for Star Trek. He became famous because of that accent, and I think he got a few jobs doing it using that accent after. But if he didn't do that accent, he would never have had that job.
Probably not.
And we wouldn't have had him playing the role, and maybe it wouldn't have been somebody with a Scottish accent or whatever. I don't know, but it's sort of along the way. It's like, who cares whether they're doing an accent or whatever, or they're really from that place? It's whether they can act or do the voice of what you want. Of course, with the live action stuff is a little different. Yeah, you want them to look the part of the original character, but Scotty was an original character at the time, so it wouldn't have mattered. But
yeah.
For that part, anyways.
So, anyways, we're going to start to wrap up here. So, the first thing we'll do before we close things out, of course, is well, I know this is Woody's favorite segment. I know Rick gets into it a little bit too here. This weekend in Nietzsche history.
This weekend in Nietzsche history.
So let's take a look to this weekend, of course, June 3rd and 4th, 2023. Let's take a look back at this weekend in Nietzsche history. First off, going to go back to yesterday. Go back about 25 years ago yesterday. As
That's not
on
so
this,
long ago, Sonny.
as on this date, on yesterday's date, 25 years ago, William N. Snyder passed away at 80 years old. Now, William N. Snyder, you guys may have seen some of his credit because he's an American film producer. He was involved. You would have seen his credit on like some of the MGM cartoons and like King Features with Popeye. He went on to eventually create Rembrandt Films with animator Gene Deitch, where they directed both their own films and cartoons outsourced from American studios, like as was saying MGM, Tom and Jerry, Columbia Pictures, UPA, 20th Century Fox with Terry Toons, Paramount with Nudnik, and King Features with Popeye. Again, I know this. I've seen his credit numerous times on, particularly MGM cartoons, some on King Features. So on yesterday's date, 25 years ago, he passed away at the age of 80.
Oh.
So anyways, moving. Anything you guys want to add to that, or because I thought somebody was about to say something.
No.
Oh, rest in peace. 25 years ago.
Scotty's accent was put on. Dash some more dreams.
Do you know James Doohan lost 2 fingers during World War II, and he's been acting. Did you know that? Because he had a certain part of his hand. Yeah, and he was in Outer Limits in an episode there before Star Trek, and of course many other shows and movies. Yeah, he
reprised his role too in The Next Generation too. Remember that
right?
One?
Yeah, for an episode.
Yeah, right. And
Relics,
he lived
to be exact.
He lived in Renton, Washington State. And I knew of a guy who met Scotty as in front of a Target. He bought a Scotty action figure from Target, and James Doohan was so nice. He signed it for him. Had a talk in the parking lot for like almost 2 hours. He was one heck of a guy. Yeah, really good. Sweetheart of a gentleman.
Sounds like he was really Canadian.
Now, from what I understand too, his son Chris had actually portrayed the role of Scotty in Vic Mignogna's Star Trek Continue series on YouTube.
Okay,
it's free. You guys can go watch it. It's basically what Vic
it's pretty good. I've seen a couple episodes.
Yeah, Vic is in it as Captain Kirk.
Good.
Todd Haberkorn is Mr. Spock. They even got the guy who played let's see, I'm trying to remember his name. Because he also did some voice acting work too. Can't remember the guy's name right. Oh, Michael Forrest. They got Michael Forrest to reprise his role as Apollo in one of the episodes too.
Okay.
So anyway,
like Scotty's accent was put on. Dash some more dreams.
Yeah. So, anyways, moving on to the next piece of niche history from yesterday. On yesterday's date, 20 years ago, in 2003, the Animatrix premiered in movie theaters. It was, of course, a Japanese and United States film with, of course,
shorts on the Matrix, based on the Matrix.
Yeah. So on yesterday's date, 20 years ago, Animatrix premiered in theaters for that. And 10 years ago yesterday, on yesterday's date, 10 years ago, from the XL Center in Hartford, Connecticut, WWE held its Monday Night Raw Super Show event there. The main event
nice.
The main event of the show saw Curtis Axel defeat John Cena by a countout in a no disqualification match. Daniel Bryan defeated Ryback by a disqualification. The Funkadactyls of Cameron and Naomi and Caitlyn defeated AJ Lee and the Bella Twins. Let's see. some other ones of importance. The show opened up with the members of the Shield, Dean Ambrose, aka AEW's John Moxley, Roman Reigns, the current Universal Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins, the current World Champion, defeating Team Hell No of Daniel Bryan and Kane and Randy Orton. So that all happened 10 years ago.
I went to a taping of Monday Night Raw back in 2001. Got free tickets. I was a courier in Seattle at the time, and take a friend of mine. We saw the Hardy Boys, Lita, The Big Show, those guys. It was a fun time.
Rick blanked out on us there.
I'm back. I just stepping away from the computer for a moment, so I just I put a piece of paper over my camera.
But Apex, the Hardy Boys are currently in AEW right now. Were you aware of that?
I don't keep up wrestling since 2001, actually.
Yeah.
So
I barely follow it. I follow it because it falls under the umbrella of niche to me.
Right,
so
exactly.
I follow it.
They have a good lineup on AEW if you got the Hardy Boys. So yeah.
Well, they have some controversial names too, like CM Punk as well.
Okay.
So, anyway, so now on this day, 75 years ago today.
Well, no, that's a really long time, Sonny.
Tegra.
The first issue of Tegra from Fox Feature Syndicates went on sale. Now, this book apparently went through 3 different titles. This is the only time it was called Tegra. It ran for only like 13 issues. It started out as Tegra Jungle Empress. Then her name was changed to Zagra for issues 2 through 5. And then it became My Love Life from issues 6 to 13.
Oh my gosh.
And they want to say women didn't have stuff, like a comic book named after a woman back in the 1940s.
Yeah, and they changed the names.
Well, on this date, though, back in 1948, 75 years ago today, was Tegra, the first issue of Tegra went on sale. Well, Rick, you should know from recently how women did have somewhat of a, because we went over Doll Man and Doll Girl the other day.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, this comic itself is named after her, right? Tegra, the Jungle Empress.
Yeah.
And there might have been a few back then too. I'm not sure offhand. You'd probably know more than me.
But later on,
they talk about women's stuff women's not being in comics or whatever. Yet way back to this time, you've got that. You probably by this time you'd have Wonder Woman as well, but
Well, no, we're still a couple years away from Wonder Woman. We're still like.
When was Wonder Woman invented?
Wonder Woman first made her first appearance in All Star Comics number 3. I believe that was sometime late 40, early 41.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And then she would have got her thing. Yeah, you reading with people are a little bit far from that, but it would have been before this issue.
Oh yeah.
Created by William Moulton Marston, a psychologist.
I was able to see a bunch of them in my misspent youth.
It was exactly in 1940.
Yep.
Wrestling needs a live crowd vibe.
Yep.
Lucky Panther. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny because there was a lot of good girl art back in the golden age too.
Oh yeah.
And I know a lot of people today might find that offensive, but a lot of these women were also very strong characters. More than just Wonder Woman, they were like Sheena. Even going back further into DC's history, Sandra of the Secret Service.
Yeah, Catwoman was a strong female character. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, anyways, with that, we'll start to wrap up here.
So no more for today?
Yeah. Well, actually, before we go, Rick, if you want to, since these guys weren't here when we went over it, if you want to give kind of your impressions of what we read the other night. I'm going to go off camera here for a quick moment to turn on my light. But if Rick,
Okay.
you want to share with Metal and Apex about what we read the other day,
Okay, I
go
will
ahead,
do
do
my
that.
best. I'm gonna try and make it a little bit shorter and conciser than we did earlier. Okay, so first one we read was called Espionage, which starred the Black Ace. Of course, as usual, I found a bunch some plot holes in it,
Nice.
as I tend to do. But it is what it is for the time. Of course, I enjoyed it. Um, it was, of course, about espionage. Some guy was trying to. What was he trying to do again?
I think he was trying to sabotage the
Yeah,
armament.
he had plans for like attacking this about the World War in Europe about to be taking place. It was almost like a prediction of what was about to come in about a month, or what was happening over in Europe, at possibly at the time that maybe most people didn't know about. So it was interesting in that fact that
Now,
it was
now,
very similar.
yeah. One other note that I'd mentioned too was that in quality, in particular, right? They were actually adding countries to the world, the access. You had now, granted, we found out that some of these countries were legit, but in those espionage stories, there were like countries like Tokoya,
I know.
Yeah.
along with Tokyo.
Well, we found all the ones that they listed in the first little blurb were actually all real, thanks to JR.
J.R. Exner, yeah.
Yeah. And then, of
Hmm.
course, the second story was the Invisible Hood. Again, it was good. Probably a couple plot holes if I remember right. And again, that was about him going up against a gangster who had kidnapped the local district attorney or whatever. So he was saving the district attorney. Then, of course, there was the premiere of Doll Man, which his girlfriend to be. So that was his origin story. Plus, his girlfriend was being extorted.
Blackmail.
So from
Oh,
a
girl.
mob type guy, I think. So he ended up taking out the mob type guy, and then the
Oh.
last. And so that
One
was
of the
pretty
other
good.
interesting things too is that Daryl Dane, who is the secret identity of Dollman, developed the serum to give him his shrinking powers.
And tested it on
he did.
himself.
And Rick, yeah, I was going to give you the. You want to
As
tell
no
him
good
exactly what he
scientist would do,
did?
except in comics.
Right. I'd love to see a Doll Man movie. It'd be kind of cool. Like what was it? The one with Uncle Sam and Black Condor, Phantom Lady.
Yeah.
Was it Freedom Fighters? Is that
Yeah.
the name of it? Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
the
they're
Freedom
owned by
Fighters
DC now,
the
so-
Freedom Fighters were all characters that DC bought up from Quality.
Real quality comics, exactly.
They were sort of done. I'm not sure whether Doll Man was in it, but in the Arrow series, in one of their crossovers between all of them, they did end up having a bunch of the Freedom Fighters in
Okay.
an episode.
I don't see a
I'm
full-fledged
pretty sure it was a
movie.
crossover. One of a bunch of them. They went to World X.
Oh yeah.
DC also picked up Plastic Man and Blackhawk from Quality as well.
Yeah, they did.
They also picked up a couple of they actually continued a couple of their books too. GI Combat, which originally started out as a GI Combat, the books, GI Combat, Blackhawks and Heartthrobs were all books that originally started with Quality that DC had continued for quite a number of years.
Nice.
Yeah. So and the last story that we read was The Clock. Unfortunately, we did not get to see the ending because the one that he got it from had the last page missing of the story.
Really?
So that was still pretty good for what we got to read of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except we didn't really get the ending, but I'm sure we could have surmised the ending. I just
Right.
forget who he was going up against this time.
Right.
Because we've read a clock one before, and he's read some other clock ones before too.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, RJ was inspired to actually write a clock story for the anthology book he's working on. RJ Carter of Critical Blast. So
Nice. Yeah. The guy that does the fulfillment for the foreign countries and stuff.
yeah.
That's great. That's good
Or
connection.
the U.S. He'll do for the U.S. as well.
Yeah.
If you're in the U.S. For
That's
me,
right.
the U.S. is a foreign country.
Sure is.
All right. So with that, I'm gonna wrap up here. We're gonna go round the horn. If you guys want to, with your outros, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, any projects you're working on, share any links in the chat so people can get to know you. But I'll start with Rick, go down to Metal, Apex, and I'll wrap up. So, Rick, go for it.
Well, of course, I am Rick Piper of Cross Comics. You can find me here, YouTube, Twitter, almost all the social media as Cross Comics. I have a show on Tuesday nights called the Chill Stream. I just chill with whoever wants to come on the panel with me and talk about whatever. Everybody, of course, here is welcome. You just come in through my Discord and just use on air chat where I should be in. That way you don't need an invite. You just the invite's automatic. The thing that I'm trying to build up right now, of course, besides my YouTube channel, is my True Social account. So there is a link to my True Social account for anybody that wants to follow me over there.
Yeah, he put it up earlier, so if he wants to.
Yeah, I just put a link in the thing for it too.
All right, so there he is. All right. All right. So anything else, Rick?
No, that should be good for me for now.
All right, Metal, you're up.
Hey, I'm the Metal. I run a show called The Vomitorium 2 times a week. Usually. Sometimes we don't, but usually it's 2 times a week. Even this Saturday, we had an off-schedule thing that was supposed to be the normal show, but my co-host didn't show up. And we just had a really long stream that Mike, you showed up for like a brief period. Rick was on like most of the time. It was a fun time, but we cover mix of pop and niche culture news, just basically whatever me and my co-host want to talk about. A lot of it's video games because
with an emphasis on video games.
But we talk a lot of films, comics when there's interesting things. I just don't normally find mainstream comics that interesting these days with the stuff they're doing in it, so we don't talk a lot about that. But yeah, you can find it the Vomitorium podcast on YouTube. And
if you want to share your link to that,
I already did.
It'll
just take a second to pop up for StreamYard.
Yep.
And I also make X Dynamis Chaos, which is a online publication for comics and pulp stories, which the main title is X Dynamis Chaos. There's also 2 other comic stories that I would like to get back to running, and a few other literature stories that people can check out. Let me get the link for that too. It's a fun site. You could spend a lot of time there. Everything's in hiatus because I'm moving right now, but everything will also be back in production very soon, hopefully.
All right. Anything more, Metal?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Apex, you're up.
Okay, I'm Apex Comics. You can subscribe to my channel at, the link is in the description there in this stream. And I also have 2 comics for sale. I also have the Apex Comics wraparound, Apex Comics Cavalcade, 20 pages, 3 different stories. Plus, I have my Apex Comics Golden Age mini comic set. You get Madam X and Nikolai Starr on 2 of them set in pockets on a backboard. Plus, you get a print on the backboard itself. You buy $10 each, or 2 for $20. If you buy the 2 for $20, you get a bonus gift in the
Yeah.
description.
Oh,
And I also have Apex After Dark every Saturday night, either the 8 p.m. or the midnight section. Depends if I work on a Saturday night. And I'm up here on Double Fly's channel, up here sometimes on this channel and other channels as well. Wherever they want me to come in, I'll come in.
yeah. Well, I've been sending you the links through Rick because I'm not on
Twitter,
Twitter.
On
But,
Twitter, yeah.
unless you're on
That's something
Facebook.
that I want to try to confirm after we're off the air. But we'll talk after we go off the air. So, anything more? By the way, I don't have your link in the description because I know you probably are used to saying that because most people do. I don't have.
Yeah. Oh, it's in the chat. I put it in the chat earlier.
Okay.
You'll find it in the chat.
Yeah. All right.
It's further up there.
All right. Any? Well, Tim just popped in. Wasn't Sunspot Hispanic? He was Brazilian, so yeah, I guess he's South American. So.
Yeah, but Brazil was more.
It's Latin America, Latino.
Yeah, you could call him Latino, but he's not Hispanic because Hispanic means it comes from España, which is Spain, and that's not where Brazilian
he was
are.
Right.
Portugal, Portuguese. That's
Portuguese.
what.
Portuguese, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, that's who settled Brazil, the Portuguese.
Right. Well, I thank everybody for being here. We're coming up on 2.5 hours now.
We're over 2.5 hours.
Yeah. So
but that's all right.
Up here. Just to remind everybody, of course, I'll be back here tomorrow night with with your daily dose of Neach news, wrestling wrap up, this day Neach history. And this Friday, Rick will be back with me again this Friday, as we'll be going over Best Comics #2 from Standard Comics, aka Nador, aka Better Books. And with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. And I thank you guys again for all the likes and shares. Hopefully, we can get more people in here over time. With that, I thank everybody for being here, and I will hopefully see everybody tomorrow.
It's only a day.